community. We're back. It's Ethan Shalloway, paired here with Chris Salona as usual for episode 24 of the Grunge Bible Podcast. And we are stoked because today is a special day, an anniversary of sorts. Ain't that right, Chris?
It is. So the day that this podcast is going to be released to the masses is the 30th anniversary of the release of probably my favorite grunge album of all time, and that is 10 from Pearl Jam, their debut album.
Wow. How many years is it?
30.
30 years?
30 years. Wow. 6 more years than I've been alive, but
yeah,
long time, man.
Holy cow. Yeah, that is a long time. And we're doing this, I was going to say, you want to check in, Chris? How are you doing? How's everything going?
Yeah, we're hanging in there. Last night, so I need to explain. I have this recurring dream for some reason. That
turn left.
Exactly.
Turn left, Chris.
I need to lucid dream. So I have this recurring dream where the circumstances behind it will always be different, but I always tear my Achilles tendon. So that's always been an irrational fear of mine. So I have this recurring dream that I'm going to tear my Achilles tendon, and I was walking around my apartment earlier today, going to the kitchen to make some eggs, and I felt like, I don't know if it was my mind playing tricks on me, but I felt like I strained my left Achilles tendon. So I was scared for a large portion of the day, but we're feeling okay now. Who knows though? Hopefully next time we check in, both of my Achilles tendons are intact. But that's basically that's the biggest point of conflict in my life right now, is reconciling that recurring dream. I gotta turn left.
Yeah, you got to turn left, dude. I had a really stressful dream last night as well.
Did you?
I was, I don't remember the details exactly, but I was with my team and we were at an airport, and it wasn't, I don't think it was a traditional country or world that we lived in, but we were in an airport in it was like a maze-like airport. And I think I fell asleep. We had a big layover and I fell asleep, and I was like, just running through this airport trying to get through get to where I was going, and it was like a fucking maze.
Oh Jesus!
And
no.
I was stressed out, and I was trying to get everywhere because I didn't want to miss my flight, because if I missed it, it was like a 20-hour flight. Like we were like way across.
Yeah, you would have been in some deep shit.
Whatever universe we were living in, and it was so stressful. I was trying to figure out what doors to run in, and people were trying to stop me because I'm running in the airport, and that just is alarming.
It's never a good sign.
Even though it's like really normal, it's also still alarming when people are, so very stressful. So I woke up and I was like, okay, good. I'm not late for work, and I'm not, late to the airport. So
yeah. So you weren't late. I still have both of my Achilles tendons. So things aren't too bad. And today, as we said, we're celebrating an anniversary. Before we get into that, at the time of this recording, there are 9 individuals that we need to thank, because they are our 9 top-level patrons over on Patreon. So they are supporting us, supporting this podcast. As we said last week, we're making this podcast happen out of our own pockets, and these 9 are, helping us out in that way. So we would like to thank, as we always do, we would like to thank Marianne, Victor Schaefer, Shannon Gorgone, Sonny Mashburn, Alexis Shannon, Release, Jade Mercado, Sue, and the real Billy Corgan.
I still like to believe that maybe there's a chance that that is really Billy Corgan.
I mean, it's not out of the realm of possibility.
Until proved, it's like Schrodinger's cat, dude. Until we open up and find out that it's not him, it may as well be him.
So let me ask you this: what
if he just took out the real and it just popped up?
Yeah, it's just William Corgan. Then who knows?
William.
Let me ask you this though: if you could, any musician that is alive currently, which musician would you be most flattered by if they chose to support us on Patreon? Doesn't have to be grunge. I mean, just there's a musician out there and like, hey man, I really like what you're doing, and they became a patron of ours.
I have a good answer. The most flattering. So I'm actually not quite a musician, but I think, and it's somebody else in the podcast game, in the radio game, and if George Stroumboulopoulos supported our page.
Yeah, Strombo.
If Strombo would notice us and say, hey man, you guys are doing pretty good stuff, that would be really incredible, because I love his vibe. I love what he's doing now. I love what he did 25 years ago. while the scene was going on, and I feel like he just has a great ear for music and appreciates a lot of stuff. And it would be so rewarding for him to be like, yeah, you guys are, you're on your way. I'd be like, hell yeah. So George Strombo is my pick.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I love that. We've been fans of his for quite a while, and I mean, he's such an important figure just in terms of music media and just music, everything about it. I mean, he's not even a critic. He's synonymous with the field. I like that a lot. I think my choice, I mean, aside from the obvious ones, I mean, but you can check off all of the actual grunge musicians, because I don't think any of them will or would. But honestly, there's two people that come to mind, which would be like, holy shit, because I'm intimidated by both of them terribly. One of them would be Kim Thile from Soundgarden, just like the silent assassin. And then probably the person who I consider to be the most intimidating is Mark Lanegan. I think Mark Lanegan would hate us personally, but on the off chance that he decided to support us, that would be very flattering.
Why do you think he would hate us?
I just feel like all of these people would hate us. This goes back to a conversation we had way back at the beginning, where it was like, which artist would you be most upset if they told you to fuck off? And I remember you picked Dave Grohl. I just feel like fundamentally these people would not like us. But I don't know. We've never really asked any of them because they're not really in our periphery yet.
Just message them. Do you guys like us? Do you guys think that we suck?
Like, I don't know who the fuck you are.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I mean, those two guys would be, because of their kind of persona, their scary persona. Yeah, it would be pretty, to get their stamp of approval would be pretty awesome. Yeah. So I agree with you. That would be pretty cool.
Yeah, but honestly, out of those three, if George Stroumboulopoulos liked us, that's
big time.
Yeah, that would be amazing.
It's coming. We had a few times. We reached out to him. We tried to. He's going to be a guest on our show at some point, right?
I mean, I would hope so.
Yeah, I mean, we reached out. Well, I think I've sent him a few DMs back.
That was way back in the day, though. So maybe we have to rekindle.
Well, it was also during the Shutdown series, Shutdown shows. We were trying to possibly, because he does a lot of stuff like that, and right. Sadly, the message.
Actually, can I change my answer?
Yeah.
Buzz Osborne.
Oh, dude. If he popped up, I would be like almost not surprised. I'd be like, dude, this is so like.
If King Buzzo recognized us.
Him and Mark Arm both together.
That would be it. Like, I could die a happy man at that point.
Yeah, I hope they're really good friends. I don't even know if they know each other like that.
I'm sure they're cool. Acquaintances with one another, as all are in that scene. And obviously I know Mark Arm knows the Pearl Jam guys for sure. I kind of feel like Buzz and the Melvins are kind of, off on their own little, tributary of the scene. But, who knows? But anyways, without further ado, the release date of this show, August 27th, 30 years to the day that this podcast comes out, was the day that 10 was released. And for me, when it comes to Pearl Jam, 10 is the undisputed champion. Versus always tries to push it in my mind, and really for the whole scene, I just always go back to 10. I think it's probably the most formative album for me from the entire genre, and certainly from Pearl Jam, who is probably my favorite band, I would say, just for what they've meant to me over the years. But it all really starts with this one, so it's crazy to think, I don't have the perspective of what 30 years feels like, because I haven't been alive for 30 years, but feels like a long time.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I've definitely listened to that album more than the rest, and I was most excited to hear those songs at the concert we went to. I feel like that one definitely sticks out the most, and when I hear people talk about the band that lived through the time, they talk about how great that album was when it came out. So I'm right there with you. I think this one has to be my favorite. Just has the most play, and it's a front to back. It is. I always, every time we have this conversation, I do say it's one of the better albums in the scene. It's just front to back so good. All the songs are bangers, and they just kind of roll right into each other. It's a great It's a great set.
And a quick editorial, if you cycle back to episode 10 of the Grunge Bible podcast, during that episode, we actually did a song-by-song kind of breakdown and discussion of the album. So today will be a little bit different. So if you're interested in that, certainly cycle back to that episode, as there was some good stuff in there. But yeah, I mirror exactly what you said. You know, seeing Pearl Jam, I've seen them twice so far, as you have, because since we've gone to the shows together. You know, anytime you hear a song off of this record, you know, and there's some that immediately come to mind as just being so special to me. It's just important. And I think, you know, our opinions of the music are always subjective because of the fact that they can mean different things to us at different times. But I think for the both of us, you know, this was really the record, and these were the songs that kind of hit us, you know, kind of when we were most impressionable in the genre, and just, you know, that point in your life where you're just really looking for powerful music. And by happenstance, I guess 10 was really the album for us. And, you know, I think that's why it'll always be solidified for me as, you know, a desert island album, and certainly, you know, my favorite from this era.
Yeah. And it's ironic because, I mean, I think for most fans, this is the first album, their debut album. So yeah, I mean, this is the first exposure to the band, the first like expression from them. So I think that a lot of people, even though that, you know, we didn't live during that time, a lot of people probably share the exact same thing because it came out. So it was, like you say, it was the only CD in their car at the time, and or the only CD in their or cassette, their cassette player in their room.
Yeah, and it's interesting too, and this has some parallels to what we were speaking about last week with Facelift and Alice in Chains, when you're thinking about that debut album. And Pearl Jam was a little different because you had, you know, members of Pearl Jam who were in Green River and who were in Mother Love Bone, for example. So, you know, at the time when you hear that, you know, this new band, Mookie Blaylock or Pearl Jam, depending on what point you found it, and they were marketed as, you know, being comprised of former members of Mother Love Bone. So it's like, you know, as a fan at the time, are you thinking, oh, is this going to be, you know, very similar to Mother Love Bone's music, or maybe is it going to harken back to what, you know, Stone and Jeff did in Green River, for example? And, you know, really just to be able to go into the studio and, you know, create something that was new. And a lot of these were actually Mother Love Bone demos that, you know, unfortunately they were not able to use since Andrew Wood had passed away. But it's really interesting because this was one of the only records where, you know, Eddie Vedder was just flying by the seat of his pants for this one. I mean, this was very much a Stone Gossard and Jeff Ament production. You know, it's interesting to think about, as we were speaking about last week, how that progression happened. And obviously Pearl Jam's got 11 studio albums now. So, you know, at the time where Eddie Vedder was basically just the lyricist at the time, and, you know, Stone and Jeff were, you know, leading the charge to making music, and Mike had his little parts here and there. But it's crazy, you know, how cohesively they came together. I feel like we always talk about that, but, you know, this band, you know, so quickly they came together and they made this album.
Yeah, and like you said, I mean, it's a very complete album, and it was in like kind of short notice, or the span of, you know, a couple months, or however long it was. And yeah, it is really impressive, the product that they came out with. And some people say that they haven't, you know, surpassed that. And also, I mean, you know, they were young. I mean, how old was Eddie Vedder?
I think he was about our age. He was maybe like 26, 27 at the time. So, you know, he had come off of, you know, being a relatively obscure, you know, musician, vocalist, you know, in the California sphere, you know, with Bad Radio. And obviously, you know, Stone and Jeff had just suffered the end of their band, you know, which was, you know, right at the precipice of, you know, maybe breaking through with the release of Apple. And Mike McCready had quit guitar for a period of time, you know, and, you know, he didn't know, you know, if he was going to keep playing or not. And, you know, he found his way back. And it's really strange, the serpentine route that this band took, you know, to get together.
Yeah.
And even the drummers, I mean, on the album, you know, Dave Cruzen was their original drummer, and he had to leave the band. And I believe Matt Chamberlain was the drummer for literally like a week and a half. And I think he's in the Alive video. And then obviously Dave Abruzzi came in time for the 10 tour, you know, and obviously he's a part of all of that iconic, live circuit performances that, they gave in 1992 and 93. But it's really strange how, it's all chance when you think about it, how all these guys came together. And there's a lot of lore around Pearl Jam in this album for that reason.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And, just thinking about that right now, I'm trying to think of like what it would look like today if something like this happened, where members of bands came together. And it's funny because like people say you need to like move to LA for music, or you need to move to New York. And, for stuff like this, like, you had to be out there, because if you didn't live out there, who knows, it would have been so hard to like be a part of that. But because they were, moved, or they all lived in Seattle, and like, that stuff allows you to kind of like interact. And there's such a intertwining of one, all of the bands, as we know, and then two, like, how they come to their final product. And
and it's crazy, just like the mythic status that the genesis of this band and this album has, with Eddie Vedder getting the demo tape from Jack Irons, and as legend has it, he listened to the demo tape, then he went surfing, and then he came back and he wrote the lyrics and recorded those 3 songs on the demo and sent it back. And then Stone and Jeff heard it, and they were like, all right, like, we got to get this guy up here. Right. It's similar to the lore of Sean Kinney drumming with a broken hand on Facelift, as time goes on. But it's almost like something this extraordinary almost has to happen out of circumstances like that.
Yeah. It's awesome. I mean, it is pretty amazing. It's like the stars aligned for, the music scene in general. I feel like the whole thing is very special. It's, it's maybe a few other scenes like that across the country in different genres, but pretty unique, which is why we love the music. And I think that's why everybody loves the bands, because of how closely they tie into each other.
Yeah, I would absolutely agree. I think that's something that made it so special. And, even just kind of thinking about the 10 record itself, even some of the tracks that didn't even make it on there. I mean, you have State of Love and Trust, you have Yellow Ledbetter, you have Breath and a Scream. I mean, even at the time, I think Footsteps was recorded around this point in time, and just they were that new to one another, and they were making stuff this good. And even on the record, I think for me, my undisputed favorite will always be Release, just because of what it means to me, and that personal story that I think a lot of us have with music, and particularly with this album. I think there's a lot that goes into it that makes it what it was. I mean, you have, at this point, you have 30 years worth of experiences, and countless millions of people who have had this album place its specific imprint on us, and that's really the metal of what makes music special and what makes this album special, because I think everybody who's listened to it has a story, with the record or with the song, and I know you and I both do, and I think for both of us, Release is near at the top of any list in terms of favorites. But is that the song that you think of when you think of this album?
Yeah, I do. I think I definitely think of Release for similar reasons. I mean, when we were brought into it, the people that were telling us to listen, or telling what to expect at our concerts, they were going to open with Release, or just how special that is with other fans. And I feel like that's one of the reasons that I love music, is because of the experience and how it brings people together. And I thought that was a beautiful way to start a show, and that was exactly how I pictured it. So I think, and it's a beautiful ballad. And I think, when we were listening to that, super impactful. So of course, that has to be one of my favorite songs of all time. But there's some really good other songs on there. What other song do you feel like you have a story to, or that you'd like to kind of touch on, or that you feel connected to, out of this track list?
I think for me, oddly enough, it goes back to the song Deep. Just a few points in my life, without expensing the personal details, but you get into a situation, and then one day it just strikes you, it's like I'm in too deep, like I need to make a change in my life, whether it be if there's a person there that you need to get out of your life, whether it's a job, whether it's an environment, something like that, whether, any type of relationship. And I've had a few instances where, I've been, teetering back and forth on something like that. And then oddly enough, you hear the song and you're like, I can't touch the bottom, I gotta get out. And certainly, I don't imagine that's what they wrote it about or that's what it's about. But to me, that's what it's about. So, that's one that certainly sticks out. And then, obviously you have a song like Alive, is just an absolutely fantastic song. And I remember just being floored, realizing the first time what it was about, that it's not like a triumphant anthem, and it's about Eddie Vedder with his dad and his mom and a bunch of things like that. But what about you? Aside from Release, are there's some standouts for you?
Yeah, I think I don't know if it's a dark horse or not, because they're all pretty popular, but I really like Why Go, and I kind of allude that to a lot of times when we were out late at night and we would look at each other, and after the concert we'd be singing like Why Go Home, and it's probably not alluding to when you're out partying and you don't want to go home. The actual lyrics of the song, it's a little different, but
I wish instead of playing Closing Time by Semisonic, I wish they played Why Go Home at the bars.
Exactly. Well, you know why? Because they both elicit very different responses.
You would never leave if you heard Why Go Home.
Could you imagine a bar just Why Go Home?
It's like, we're not fucking leaving.
Yeah, basically. But the other one is like, I love a good Semisonic. But yeah, so I think Why Go is really great. Yeah. I feel like because I'm notorious for doing stuff like that, for just staying out a little bit too long, staying out past
just pushing the boundaries a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's how I picture that song, and I can just always picture Eddie singing that, and it's just really encapsulates like what Pearl Jam, that album, was for me. So that's a good one.
Yeah.
What else? Probably, Even Flow. I think also even Flow and Alive. We used to jam that with a few other people. So I like listening to those and kind of playing along on the drums and stuff more than the other ones. Those are two that I just have history with. So I do like those, even if they are, the big commercial successes. They're still great.
It doesn't matter. They're still important.
They're there for a reason. Exactly.
And they're commercial successes for a reason.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's interesting, as I spoke about actually last episode with the Facelift album, 10 by Pearl Jam was one of the other, few CDs that I had. And actually, when I went away to college, driving across the country for the first time going to college, I just remember listening to this album front to back, more than a couple of times, and, just driving through the Midwest where you can't see anything, and the sunset, and you hear Black on the radio, on the CD, and that's another one right there. I mean, oh man, I feel like we could go track by track and be like, oh, this is the one, And it's crazy, much, and just the fact that this thing came out 30 years ago, and we're talking about it with this much, enchantment almost. And I can only imagine, 30 years from now, probably people are still going to be talking about it. That's how special of an album was. And another important thing about this album is actually this was the only era, and this was the only album that was out during the time with which Mike McCready had a mustache.
Oh, this is important. Yes. That's amazing. We need to definitely post a solid picture
of Mustache Mike
in the session. Yeah, I don't know if you have one in mind or not.
I think I do actually, as a matter of fact.
But yeah, you were before the episode. You were pretty certain or pretty excited to talk about Mike's mustache. What is it about Mike's mustache that you love so much?
It's so great because it's such a bad mustache. So it's such a bad mustache, which is what makes it so good. Right? Well, yeah, that's the point. If you have a mustache like that and you're playing Pink Pop or whatever with that, like, you have to be one confident son of a gun. To go out there with like a little caterpillar on your top lip, heading out there. And I don't know, man.
Peach fuzz.
Exactly. I've always had great reverence for the mustache, and I know at various points in both of our lives we have chosen to wear the mustache. And I don't know, it's just
chosen that path.
Yeah, it's like a solidarity thing when you see someone with a mustache. Like if
It's just like long hair.
It's the same thing as long hair, especially if you combine the two. I mean, you're going to be undefeated, which we've both done in the past. And don't you feel better when you have long hair and a mustache, don't you?
You do. You feel like you represent something.
Exactly.
And like I said, when we talked about like long hair, when you see somebody else with long hair, you know that they get it.
It's like
you
what Graham Nash said.
Yeah, Graham Nash.
You knew what they stood for.
You know what they stood for. I feel like the same with the mustache.
Same thing.
You know, when they got a mustache, you know that they stand for a good time. They stand for being a little different.
Maybe staying out a little too late, you know?
Yeah, being out a little too late. Usually if they got a mustache, you know that they like a nice cold beer. They
may have been thrown out of the pub a time or two, you know?
Yeah.
Especially a bad mustache, because like I said, if you're out with a bad mustache, I mean, nothing can stop you, because clearly your own appearance couldn't.
Yeah, well, and a good mustache, just screams, it's like wealth. It's like royalty if you have a really nice or a Western or something.
Exactly.
If you have a good mustache, where you're just making everybody jealous.
Exactly.
You're just out there to prove
that's what we aspire to.
If you got a curly Q so that's a status thing when you get that mustache that's actually, really good. But other than that, yeah, that's
why it's so important to me. So maybe that's why this album is so important to me. But I have to ask you, if you could rate on a scale of 1 to 10 your mustache growing ability and your satisfaction, because I know you've enjoyed wearing the mustache for many years now. Where would you rank your abilities?
My current abilities, I feel like this past year or two has definitely improved. And when I'm wearing a hat forward, because that's really important for the look and for the brand. When I'm wearing a hat forward, I feel like my mustache game is pretty high. When you take it off, maybe it's because the light hits it a little bit better, but it's not as good. But I would say I'm at on my best day, I feel like I'm at a 7, or like a 6.5 to a 7.5. I always don't think it's as good, but then people say like, wow, you really, you got it. And so I don't know.
Yeah.
How about you? I got a funny story about a mustache then too, but what's your mustache ability right now?
It's been about a year and a half since I've committed to growing a mustache during the early stages of quarantine back in April of 2020, give or take. I committed to the mustache. Usually,
well, the nice part is you don't need to necessarily commit to it until you shave everything else.
You cultivate it under the cover of darkness. Exactly. Yeah. That's what I always used to do. Surprise. Yeah, no good mustache is grown without the presence of a beard prior to it. But I don't know. It's been a while. So my plans for this fall is actually I'm going to grow a beard for a little bit and I'm going to cut it off.
Your plans for the fall. I love this.
And see what I have, because I think as of right now, I'm probably in like the high 5s or low 6s. Like, I don't think it's a great mustache. But honestly, I am planning a mean mustache this fall. I'm going to commit to it. I think I'm going to do it. I think September, I'm going to grow the beard. And then come October, shaving off the beard and leaving the mustache. And we're going to stick with that for a little while. Because like what you said, it's not about how good it looks. It's about what you represent. And Mike McCready, for example, he understood that. He never even went with the beard. I don't even know if he could have grown a beard. He just went out there with the Caterpillar and fucking rocked alive and even flow solos in front of 80,000 people.
Yeah.
That's what it's about.
That is exactly what it's about. That's amazing. The story that I was going to say is my Uncle Mikey, Elijah, my little brother, had just called me and told me this story, and it's just a funny. I think he's not quite 80, he's 70 something, but he had a mustache for years, long time. He said, I used to have a mustache, and he was a gym teacher.
Naturally.
And he basically said he's like in a very he's like, I had a mustache for 30 years while I was teaching. 30 years. And I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, that's pretty long. And it was big. It was really good. He's like, but then, you know why I cut it off? Because it got white. He said, all of a sudden it got gray hair and then it got white. And it was so white I couldn't even see it. So I just shaved it off. He's like, and no one noticed. He's like, he's like, no one noticed. He's like, I had to tell people that I shaved my mustache. That's how white it was. And like and of course, like we're like laughing. He's like, "Do you hear me?" He's like, "I had to shave it. No one." He's like, "I had to tell people I didn't have a mustache." And it was like it was just so funny because he's an older guy, and but it was great. But the power of the mustache,
man,
it became so much a part of him.
And I have to say, because we've both had very long hair in the past, and we've cut it. We've both had beards, mustaches. You have it, and we've cut them. It is offensive when people don't notice. Like if your circle doesn't notice. Like I remember, I had long hair in college, and I cut it off like right before I graduated. Probably one of the worst decisions of my life, obviously. And like I went to this event that we had, and like some of my teammates and acquaintances, they literally came up to me and did the, like, "You look different. Like, did you do something?" I was like, I just chopped off like 14 inches of my hair. Like, of course I look different. It's very offensive when they don't notice.
And you know what? There's a great lyric that goes along with that, along with the whole journey. When you're growing out your hair, or when you're growing out the mustache and you chop it off and people don't notice. And it's simply put, my pain is self-chosen.
At least I believe it to be.
At least I believe it to be. Because that whole time, it's like, you know deep down that, after you cut your hair, you realize that, wow, I look a lot better with short hair.
Oh, totally.
Or you cut your mustache, like, wow, I can't believe I had a mustache, for so long, if, for whatever reason. So it's like, wow, I chose that pain.
But that just goes to show how dedicated of a principle it is, because you're willing to sacrifice your own personal level of attractiveness for the principle. Because, like, I know I didn't look good with long hair. I know I don't look good with a mustache, but, like, it doesn't matter. Yeah. It's about the principle.
It's not going to stop me.
No, it's not going to stop me. What do I have to lose? It doesn't matter.
It's about principle.
Exactly. See, people don't understand that nowadays. I'm sitting here on my rocking chair, pontificating about this shit, but it's important. And Mike McCready understood
over the line.
Yeah. Am I the only one who gives a shit about the rules anymore?
Exactly.
This is a league game. This determines who goes to the next round.
Market 8, Smokey.
Oh man, see, if episode 24 is the 10 podcast episode, we have to do a Big Lebowski episode.
I think so too.
We have to.
I really do.
Yeah, because that I mean, for us, that's about as steeped in lore as it gets, along with something like 10.
As OG as it gets. Yeah, as OG as it gets. Yeah.
So maybe if the people like that, we'll have to dial that up. And speaking of the people, as always, thank you so much for your continued support, whether it be listening, subscribing, liking, commenting, giving us advice, giving us criticism, telling us to fuck off, supporting us on Patreon, buying a shirt, buying socks, buying a hat. Any of that stuff is absolutely fantastic, and we're very thankful for everybody that has chosen to support us. If you're interested in finding out more ways to support us, or if you want to explore those avenues that I just mentioned, minus the fucking off part, you can go to grungebible.com for all of the links to our merchandise, to our Patreon, and to all of our streaming services. So we're really thankful for that support. This is the 24th episode, 24 weeks. That's over half a year. And we're still doing this thanks to you guys, so we're really thankful for that.
Yeah, we are always so thankful. We want to keep that a theme, to thank you guys more than we should. So know that you guys are much appreciated. So are we growing mustaches, Chris?
We're growing mustaches. It is decided.
I'm literally. I definitely have enough facial hair where as soon as I set down this mic, I'm shaving everything but the stash. I'm going into this weekend in the beach hot.
Oh yeah.
And I'm gonna enjoy it. I'm gonna do it.
I just shaved last night, so we'll check in.
You're fresh.
Yeah, we'll check in a couple of days, and I look like a little boy now. And I don't know, a couple of days time, we'll get this sucker going, and hopefully next time we sit down to record this, we'll have some nice mustaches to show off to the people.
Oh heck yeah,
that'll be fantastic. And I don't know. I feel like for Song of the Week, I should have chosen a musician that has superb mustachery, but I don't believe this individual is a mustache person, but unfortunately, I'm just going to get right into my Song of the Week pick, and I believe this is I believe this is a musician that you've seen live. Have you seen Briston Maroney?
I did. I just saw him about 3 months ago.
Who did he open for when you saw him?
Mount Joy.
That's right. I couldn't remember who it was. But anyways, my song of the week is from
excellent.
Bristol Maroney, and it's Freaking Out on the Interstate, which I think came out last year. And I don't know, he's really talented. Really, really talented. Now, I knew he released an EP in 2019 called Indiana, and I was a big fan of the song Caroline on there. But yeah, I don't know, when I heard, I think one of my friends initially suggested this song Freaking Out on the Interstate to me, and I pretty much listened to it, back to back for like an hour and a half a few days ago, as I tend to do with songs that I discover that I like, and that one's etched in stone as my song of the week. Just that one spurt will probably land it on my Spotify top 100 list. So
really, so you just kind of binged it for a good 90 minutes.
I binge songs pretty badly. Well, it's not bad. I mean, fuck it.
That makes sense. Yeah, I thought you did something like that. That's interesting.
I mean, that's how that one year.
That's great. He's really good. He's got a good band. I think the drummer. I really like the drummer of the band, and
totally.
They were pretty fun.
Yeah, like
I hope to see them again open up for somebody or something like that.
Yeah, I was talking to somebody once, back to the binging thing, and like they could not fathom the fact that I would listen to a song back to back. But like, I mean, that's what I do. That was like that one year where "Colorblind" by the Counting Crows was my second most listened to song, since I left it on overnight one night after a binge listen where I had it on repeat. So I
can't believe it wasn't the number one, though.
I know. I forget what overtook it. I think it was "Light Years" by Pearl Jam. So that was a tough year by that sound. But what's your song of the week this week, partner?
Yeah. My song, I'll go a little bit different than what I've been doing. I actually, the other night, one of my favorite films was on TV, and it was The School of Rock. And I posted it a few times on the page. I love Jack Black. Yep. It's one of my favorite. Just music, Jack Black, comedy. It's so good. And in one of the scenes when they're first getting to, when he's first teaching all the kids about the music, and they're like getting used to practicing in the room and all the setup and tear down and like doing stuff discreetly and whatnot.
Oh yeah.
The background song is "Bonzo Goes to Bitburg" by the Ramones.
Okay.
And it's not a song that I was too keen on before noticing it in the movie for the second time, or watched it a million times, but finally noticing the music and like listening it. And it's a great song, and I love the name Bonzo Goes to Bitburg, and it's really good. I mean, the Ramones is a band that I love, that I wish that I listened to more. I've gotten into them a little bit, but I really don't know much about they have incredible history and culture behind them and significance. And I did have I've had kind of stints with the punk rock and the British rock and whatnot, and it's some of my favorite kind of like history of music. So I need to get back into it. I need to really listen to some Ramones more. It's a great song. It's good.
I have to listen to it, because I'm going to be honest, like the Ramones, it's another one of those bands that, just like we were talking about last week, Doors, everybody just kind of respects them as like they're important, but like honestly, I'm going to be honest, like to this point, I don't get the Ramones. Like, I don't get it. I haven't developed, I haven't acquired a taste for it. Like, they're up there with another band that, like, I just haven't been able to get yet, is Queen. And I mean, there's no doubting their talent, obviously. I would never doubt their talent. I would never doubt their importance. Same thing with the Ramones. I just haven't been able to get into it. So maybe this is the catalyst.
It's another band that I know that you don't get, but I really wish you did.
Who's that?
Rush.
I've started to a little bit. So I'll say Steely Dan, they were in that category with me. And then one of my old bosses loves Steely Dan, and like we used to be in the office late at night sometimes, and we just listened to Steely Dan records like back to back to back. So that kind of got me into it. So maybe I just need to have like a Rush week, like on the list. Maybe, yeah. There's Rush, the Fish Experiment, we're still working on that. Back to a couple of weeks
we need
ago.
We need a recap next podcast on that.
Next podcast.
Dude, we're working hard.
That'll have been 3 weeks to get into Fish. So
we've been in the Fish boot camp right now, and we're gonna we'll catch you up next time.
I'm working 80-hour weeks with Fish. But yeah, I mean, it's like Rush, Queen, the Ramones. I mean, there's just some bands that, like, I have some homework to do. So maybe this will help me. But if not, I'll just go back and listen to 10 for the 16,000th time or whatever.
Yep, put it on repeat, baby.
Yep, you know the drill. But anyways,
awesome.
Yeah, it's really great.
Good requests.
Yeah, happy birthday to 10, which turns 30. I'm sure the Instagram feed will be very ripe with content from the album, not just ours, but obviously the band's as well, and other people in the Pearl Jam /grunge/ music community. It's always great. Love listening and hearing and reading everybody's experiences with the album, so I'll be looking forward to doing that today. But Ethan, do you have any closing thoughts?
No, I think that wraps it up really well. Another great podcast. Again, we're thankful again, and check out the songs of the week. That playlist is growing now, and I love the diversity. I mean, they're right there. We just did two songs on this pod and the last pod back to back, and I just feel like they're all so diverse.
Absolutely.
And also shout out to Drew McFadden, our wonderful producer. He's doing a great job in making us sound good, at least some of the time, and I'll take that, right, Drew?
Some of the time is better than none of the time. Thank you, Drew. Thank you to all of the listeners out there, and we will catch you guys next week with a new topic. Happy birthday, 10, Ethan. I'll catch you sometime down the trail.
All right, guys. Thank you, Chris. And as always, rock and roll. Talk to you later.
Take her easy for all us sinners out there.